Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Allison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Happy Monday, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
Welcome to my new technology. I have gone through some upgrades, and Allison is more excited than I am about it. But, you know, I got to the point where I was like, huh?
You look great.
Thanks. It's just how I woke up this morning. I don't know. It's the new camera, I guess.
Yeah. She always looks great, though.
Well, thank you, but that's not true. But thank you. Sometimes I'm a wreck at the end of the day, but we're not even actually recording this at the end of a long work day, so I'm pleased.
Yeah.
And I obviously look it. Today, we're going to talk about something that really is rooted in what Allison and I have been observing about adults. So many of the things that I blog about and write about are rooted in my observations of adults, because I watch adult behavior and I think, where did this come from? What was the miss in your early childhood?
I know. It's like, what was your childhood like?
what kind of didn't happen for you there? And how can we do better? You know, we all have that. We all have misses in our early childhood, but what can we do better for the children that we are working with and raising? And that has to do with owning their own point of view, which is an intentional lesson for early learners, because they are egocentric. We learned this from Jean Piaget and other researchers. That they tend to be rather egocentric, but it's not that they only care about themselves. It's that's the only point of view they see.
Yeah.
It's not like, you know, they have been exposed to the fact that other people can think differently and have decided to reject that. It's that they fully don't understand that.
Yeah, they don't understand that yet. Their little brains cannot wrap that concept. They can't wrap their brain around that concept at all. And that's okay.
Right. And so what happens when you're in a classroom and you've got 10 to 15 kids in front of you who are early learners is that they all think you think like them. They don't understand that someone else can have a different opinion or need. And we have to intentionally teach them that other people have other ways of looking at the world and life and the situation you're in right now.
Right.
And I think that the behavior of adults sometimes shows that we need to do a better job of helping people to understand that other opinions are not evil or wrong or stupid. They come from another perspective.
Right. And I think if you listen to other people's point of views or their opinions, especially when they're not like yours, it could teach you a great deal of not only about the person, but about the subject matter that you might be talking about, you know, because like I have this view because of my life and how I grew up and the situation I'm in now, but somebody else has a totally different situation that they're in, and that might cause their beliefs to be different. And that's okay. That's what makes us all unique. It's what makes the world go round. You wouldn't want everybody to be exactly like you with the exact same opinion as you. I mean, it's just...
But at the same time, you're entitled to your opinion. And I want children to know that. You are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to stand for your opinion.
Yes.
And really, you should. Children should be taught kind and respectful ways to stand for their opinion. But in a way that doesn't outwardly reject everyone else. I think it would just be a better world. You know what I see a lot of now when I speak with whether it's stressed out teachers, stressed out administrators, stressed out parents, you know, just stressed out random pandemic people.
It's a stressful time.
The phrase that I keep hearing is everybody feels that. And no, not everyone feels like you do. I'm sorry, but they don't. And don't you think it's true, Allison, that when we go and we say to a group of people, like a group of coworkers, let's say, I go into a group of coworkers and I say, here's how I feel about this. A bunch of people are just going to nod because people don't like confrontation. But it doesn't mean they feel the same way as me.
Right. Right. That's 100%
really
true. That is true. right? Because I am sometimes like that. Like if I'm on a meeting or something, I'll be like, yeah, okay. And it's me nodding, be like, I see your point of view, but I'm not going to get into the argument right now and say mine. You know, it has to be something I'm really willing to fight for me to stand up. But like, I'm almost nodding and like, yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying. You know, but like, so like, yeah, but that doesn't mean I agree with you, you know, at all. So
I have learned over the years of being in the positions I've been in, whether it's running a school or consulting with schools and working with groups of staff members, whatever position I've been in, even in things like Allison and I have done committee work together and board work together for organizations. Here's what I've learned. When someone says everybody thinks, it's actually about 3 people.
Yeah.
3 people agree with you.
That is true.
In the whole crowd.
In the whole crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
But when somebody has a question, they all wonder it.
Right. It's just
there's a big difference, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I get in places and they start doing that, and people say to me, the whole group feels like that's when I exit that part of the conversation and shut it down.
Yeah.
I move on to the next topic, because you're never going to convince me that you aren't speaking for just yourself and perhaps 2 other people, but not everyone in this crowd feels the same way.
Right.
I think we can teach this to young children. I think we can go to young children and teach them, even when they're having their typical young child arguments over a toy or space or where they're sitting or whatever it is, to say to them, you know, the other child feels this way about it.
Yeah.
I understand how you feel. You can say how you feel, and then let's figure out what to do about it.
Yeah. I say that a lot to them. I'm like, that it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
He might not feel the same way. You know, ask him how he feels, you know, like just to like, because you don't all feel the same way about a similar, even the exact same situation you went through. You don't feel the same way, you know? So I try to teach the kids in my class, like, ask him how he feels about that. Ask him, you know, because then they're now becoming people who know how to talk about feelings too, which is another issue that children have. And then they grow up into adults that don't know how to talk about their feelings, you know? So
I have watched many a pre-K and kindergarten student try to gather a consensus among their peers about something happening in the classroom. And I gotta say, I admire it. These children are leaders, you know, the ones who try to get a consensus an agreement among their classmates. They definitely are leaders, and maybe someday they'll be terrific politicians. Here's what Here's what I see happening. Like, the young children will be like, you know, I think we should be able to have that book, a book that I've put away because it's a teacher book. I think we should be able to have that book. Don't you think so, Susie and Johnny and Becca and Brian? Don't you think we should be able to have that book? And I feel like that's the beginning of what eventually becomes, we all feel this way, Cindy.
Right.
Like, no. Well, and you know what Becca and Johnny and Susie do when they say that in pre-K? The kid goes, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Which again is what the adults do.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do in my class every day is I always have 2 books, and they had to vote on what book they want to read at the end of the day. And at first they were like, well, I'm just going to follow what everybody else votes for. I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. You vote for what it's about. And I told them, you vote for what's in your head and your heart. And then, so then they got that, and that took a little while. And then now at the end of the day, whatever book wins the most votes, you'll get people be like, see, I told you my vote was better. I'm like, no, it doesn't. No matter what you voted for, it's the right choice, you know? But right here, the majority rule today, we'll put this book back in the election pile and it'll win another day. But
Allison, you're using such dangerous words like vote and election. Let's get.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Dangerous.
That's what we do every, that's how I talk to them about
this is
voting.
How we teach children about voting.
That's what I taught them about voting. Yeah.
Right. We talk to them about voting in that way. Like, we vote on what we want the weather to be tomorrow. We vote on stuff like that so that they understand
what I don't want
the group dynamic.
Yeah, is to say my vote is better because it won, or my opinion about that book means more because it won. So we talk about that almost every day. Like, you're not supposed to rub in because you have that opinion, both books are valid, both votes are valid, no matter what opinion you had, it's valid.
And
So
individual children, when they start to try and get the consensus themselves and the whole class isn't voting, they're going, don't you think so, Brian? Don't you think so, Susie? And they start doing that around pre-K. What I do is, as a teacher, I turn to the child who's trying to get the agreement and I say, you're telling me how you feel. You don't need them to tell me to. You tell me why and I'll think about it. You don't need them all to tell me or to agree with it. You tell me how you're feeling. And I think that we have to teach children to stand for their opinion that way, to stand for their point of view, to say to them, don't look around the room. Just tell me why you feel this way. Right. So that maybe when they become adults and they're talking to someone like me consulting where they work, they won't start with the whole, and we all feel, and they'll just look at me and say, and this is why I feel this way. I have so much more respect for adults who look at me and say, this is how I'm feeling, and this is why I feel this way. What do you think of that? So much more respect for that than the people who say, and we all feel this way.
Okay. And also think about if you are that other person that somebody is speaking for. I mean, this happened to me at school where they're like, oh, we all feel that way. I'm like, no, but I don't feel that way. And then you almost are afraid to speak up because now you're in the minority, or that person at least made you feel like you're in the minority. So you're like, oh, I better just stop talking. I'm not even going to say, and that's not the right thing either. I should be able to say my opinion no matter what it is, whether it agrees with you or not, so, but like once you start with the whole, like, we all feel this way, then you automatically have put me in a different group.
It's like, it's intimidating and and it turns people off and people don't like confrontation, nor do they like to have to, it's a mess. And I just really want to say, we have said many times on this podcast, we weren't raised with these great social emotional skills because people didn't know. And so we've got whole generations of people going, and we all feel this way. No. You feel this way. Please own it, stand up for it. Tell me why, propose alternate solutions. Here are the things we need to teach children, right? Say it, say exactly how you feel. Tell me why, explain it to me. Propose alternate solutions if you're disagreeing with me. Don't just complain. Like there's so many episodes in this one episode of things that adults really didn't learn how to do when we were kids, but we can teach it to children. So look at your children, folks, when they're even trying to get a consensus at home, they say something and they're like, don't you agree, Daddy? Don't you agree to their sibling? Just look at them and say, they don't have to agree.
They don't have to agree.
I need to hear from you why you feel this way and what you think we should do. And then we can talk about it. Stand for yourselves, right? Like it's not you. Oh my goodness. I don't know. And I'll be honest, like I also, when I was younger, looked for consensus all the time. And I have learned throughout the course of my life that actually, if I can speak intelligently and calmly, that's another thing, calmly about how I feel, then people will listen and I can propose things. But I also need to consider when they push back and say, well, Cindy, that just can't happen that way. And at least I spoke my piece. I stood for me, right?
And then it makes you feel better because even if you can't do the solution that you propose because it's not feasible or wherever it might be, at least you feel better. Like, okay, but maybe next time that we're in this situation, they'll take that under advisement and that'll be the end. You know what I mean? But at least you tried. You tried to, change the situation or find a different solution. And the person thought about it and said, hey, we can't do that at this time, or that's not going to work because of whatever, X, Y, and Z. But now, you tried. If you don't try, you don't know. If you just sit there and be like, all right, whatever, I'm just going to
that's what children need to be taught. Right? They need to be taught. You have to try, take a deep breath, calmly tell people how you feel and why. And, maybe tell them what you would like to see happen. Try to find a compromise. Teach young children what compromise is a whole other episode that probably you should jot down, Allison. How do we teach children to compromise? Because there are ways to teach them. In the meantime, I hope that the people who are listening will kind of start out with this. And I think the steps are probably this. When children have an opinion, we're going to respect the fact that they have an opinion.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask them to tell us a few things. Tell me what you think and how you feel.
And how you feel. Yeah.
Tell me if they're old enough. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think we should do?
Yeah.
Now listen to what I have to say about it.
Right.
But please don't look around the room trying to gain all this false consensus. Again, folks, every time you're thinking everybody agrees with me, there isn't a shot. And I'm going to go back to those words Allison used. If we didn't learn that from this past election cycle, then I just don't know what to say. How many times have you all been on social media in a room or whatever, and you're assuming everyone feels the same as you, and you suddenly discover someone doesn't, and it shocks you? It shouldn't shock us that other people see the world differently. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to even like the way they see the world.
No.
But they're entitled to their vision of the world.
Right.
And I think that that's a first step to repairing the world. And it's the steps we need to take with young children to say to them, okay, so you have a different opinion, or I have a different opinion. Let's talk about it and stand for what you think. Stand for your point of view.
Yeah, I think teaching children how to talk about it is very, very important. Adults do not know how to talk about their opinions anymore without it turning into this big combative argument. It's like, no, you're allowed to debate topics, and have different opinions, and
everybody
and then
take a
move
breath.
on and have dinner together. You're allowed to do that, so like, but I think
it doesn't happen anymore, but you're allowed.
No, it doesn't happen anymore. But I feel like if we teach the kids that, then maybe when they grow up, we wouldn't be so argumentative at Thanksgiving dinners or whatever it might be,
just everybody take a breath. Goodness sake. I think what we'll do is I'll wrap up while you deal with. Allison's obviously dealing with her dog. So
we ran out of treats.
Yeah. Okay. so she can. So that's the time that Allison mutes herself. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Yeah. I'm gonna wrap up for you. That's the beauty of having a partner in a podcast. By the way, she's gonna nod now for the YouTube people. I know. So again, teach your children what we've said. Take a breath. Try and be calm. Tell me how you feel. Tell me why you feel that way, and we'll talk about it. But you don't need everybody else's yes to go along with you. All you need is you and your thoughts. We appreciate all of you podcast people. We really do. All our preschool peeps. And, we've been hearing consistently from listeners. We so appreciate that. Check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. You'll get to see what my new camera looks like that Allison was talking about. And while you're there, please click on subscribe. Even if you never go back there again, the more subscribers you get, kind of the more benefits you get on YouTube. Go to Facebook and find us on How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast. Our website is howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. You can contact us through there. We would love if you gave us 5 stars. We so appreciate your positivity about this podcast and the places it has gone and the number of people listening. We just love that. On behalf of me and Allison, who people on YouTube can see nearly wrestling with her dog, on the behalf of both of us, yes, there you go. On behalf of both of us, we thank you for being faithful listeners and passing us along to other people. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time on the podcast.